and you'll tweet us out, and we'll do this thing, and we will fight, and we will fight. Yes.
We will endure.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
Because that's what we do.
And you guys are here with us. The fight in the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Houston Texans as we kick off part 2 of the Week 5 preview here on the Audible. I'm interested to see how Houston responds. I think it could be pretty good. But Jacksonville is going to have their thing to say about it. Of course, with Gardner Minshew out there slinging it as a QB1, low-end QB1. James Robinson as an RB1. DJ Chark is at least a wide receiver 2 with some upside. Visca Shenault is worth a flex play. Like, you've got some interesting fantasy assets. This game is already interesting because it's post-B.O.B., and I hate that because I love B.O.B. the rapper. But Bill O'Brien. It's post Bill O'Brien. How do the Texans respond? But first, Bloom, how do the Jaguars attack their opponent that no longer has that weight lifted?
That's the big psychological story here. You know, and it's real interesting, Cease. I'm going to take a little time on this one because we don't get a lot of opportunities like this, where from the reality show angle in the NFL, people are speaking out. You know. This is definitely
that doesn't happen in the NFL.
No, it's taboo. It's a way that you never get another job.
Very much so. Yep.
You know, if you were the kind of person that after you leave an organization you kiss and tell, then the next team that's thinking about hiring you might say, "We don't want that. We don't want our dirty laundry aired if things go south." You know, but that's obviously not what has happened here. Even down cease to the idea that it was J.J. Watt leading the player insurrection. And so what's interesting is, in this age of player empowerment, this stands for the idea that there are figures in an organization bigger than the Coach King, right? I mean, we've talked about the Coach King, the new model of the Coach King in the NFL, around the NFL. Sean McDermott, you know. Sure sounds like Matt Rule is one. Bill Belichick maybe the OG of this generation of coaches and the Coach King. And Bill O'Brien was not just a Coach King, but he kind of like a dictator, like he amassed power, you know. Even Jack Easterby, who is now, this is all like Game of Thrones stuff, right, Cease? Because how does Jack Easterby get elevated to being like the king of a franchise? But that's where he is right now. Watch them they're just going to go back to the well with more Patriots, by the way. I mean, that's, look for that anyway. Boring, yeah, I know. But J.J. Watt was bigger than Bill O'Brien, which, you know, kind of makes sense. I mean, that's kind of a just world, right? He should be the biggest. He's the continuity of all of these teams that Bill O'Brien got to the playoffs, even though they weren't great teams. And Bill O'Brien was the reason they couldn't get farther. So there's a real possibility that Houston could go into this game just with a weight lifted. You know, it's kind of like getting out of an abusive relationship.
Right.
So this is going to be real interesting. Jags are already kind of in an abusive relationship. Or a neglect relationship. Is a neglect relationship an abusive relationship? In a way, it is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It qualifies.
Sure.
It qualifies. But they don't care because Gardner Minshew, see, it's kind of like the kids when the parents aren't home. You know, Gardner Minshew's like, come on, let's just play football. And Jay Gruden's going to put together an offense here. The Houston defense is not a good defense. The running game is not. I mean, the running defense, rush defense especially, is bad. So this is a big James Robinson spot, and it's sure looking like James Robinson's going to be the biggest value of 2020 fantasy football. So congratulations if you, for instance, bid like $250 of your $500 on him. That's a pretty brilliant move after week 1 if you're that kind of fantasy football player. Another interesting thing here, Cease. This is that franchise rivalry that has always defied the expectations coming into the matchup, right? No matter how good the Texans or Jags are, everything kind of falls to the wayside when these two teams get it on. So that's something to keep in mind here, too. But with Minshew, you're liking him as a potential streamer, certainly a DFS potential play, quarterback 2, super flex, and you love DJ Chark. And that's the thing. With DJ Chark back out there, all of a sudden everything comes alive in this offense again. Laviska Shenault getting those targets downfield, and sees how much are you loving seeing it. It's week 5. We haven't seen Visca. Barely has even been on the injury report. We're watching his game grow. He's at an organization that has embraced his talents. This is looking good. And this
Yeah,
is
well,
really
and that's where I was shocked when it was the Jaguars that took Visca. I was like, oh man, creativity. You're not looking at creativity with Jacksonville, and
right.
yeah, they're using him the right way, and he's staying healthy, which is something we always knew. Like, you just got to be healthy, man. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's exciting. So you love Chark. Chark is a borderline wide receiver one. I'm glad we got to see the numbers finally show up. And LaVisca, I think Visca's going to pretty soon be somebody that we play every week. And then, you've got the supporting cast players. Maybe we'll see a tight end again. If we see a tight end injury, Tyler Eifert is there, then maybe James O'Shaughnessy will be a name we talk about. Chris Thompson falling off the radar a little bit. James Robinson's that good. That role, because creativity, that's Jay Gruden, and Chris Thompson, that's Jay Gruden. It's not even really a role for Thompson, and Thompson has had a big touchdown catch already. So, the Jags are going to be game competitors, but like we said, this is all build up to, it's really Deshaun Watson, right? We're watching Deshaun Watson. See, it's like the movie stars, and the movie stars are like our gods and goddesses, or, we project that onto them. And certainly a quarterback like Deshaun Watson, even going back to Clemson, he's an epic figure. And his story has been dominated by Bill O'Brien, and now we see the opening of a new chapter.
Yes, now we get to see him flourish. Like we've seen Deshaun Watson with the governor on. The governor of Bill O'Brien.
Right.
The guy holding him back. The guy who didn't want him. The guy that wanted Tom Savage instead of him. This has to be a very liberating feeling for Deshaun Watson getting out of the Bill O'Brien doldrums. So how do they respond? Bloom, we could be talking about a lot of Texans on the waiver wire, as people maybe have moved on or dropped Randall Cobb or what have you. Like, okay, now I just want to sit back and watch this. The fantasy takes are important, right? I just want to sit back and watch the football of this game and go, how do they respond now with that weight lifted off their shoulders? It could be quite impressive.
It should be. Well, even if it's just that Ben Roethlisberger, the quarterback is the offensive coordinator kind of approach, that's fine with Deshaun Watson. So you're right. Fortunes could change. See, this is kind of like going into week one. Fortunes could change, even to the point where I brought it up a couple of times. The Chargers 0-4 went to the playoffs. I don't remember what year it was, but the Texans could do that this year, especially with the 7th playoff spot. They had a really rough schedule to open, except for that Minnesota game. So, yeah, Deshaun Watson, unless you have a quarterback that's obvious, you're excited to play him. In DFS, you're excited. Jacksonville's offense, by the way, defense, we saw Joe Burrow, Joe Mixon break out. So the Joe Mixon breakout, is it a David Johnson breakout? What's the usage going to look like even, Cease? What's the usage of Duke Johnson and David Johnson? Could Duke Johnson as a subplot here, could he be freed? How long have Bill O'Brien, GM, trades for Duke Johnson. Bill O'Brien, the coach, uses him the way that he had been used, i.e. underused, throughout his career. Could something change there? Or could something change with David Johnson, who should just be more prominent in the passing game than the running game anyway? That's fascinating. You've got Will Fuller. You're playing Will Fuller. And Dr. Gene, of course, sometimes I'll push Dr. Gene just to make a call on something that I know it's ridiculous to make a call on. Like, should you play Will Fuller? And he said, well, you drafted him. This is what you drafted him for. You play him if he's on the field. And he's right. And you play him if he's on the field. But even Cooks and Cobb, what the heck flexes? Maybe if things open up a little bit more there. Jordan Aiken's a little banged up, so we'll see a little more Darren Fells for true deep desperation, tight end. And of course, in the background, speaking about all of these stories, how they're connected, then there's Chris Greer and Brian Flores saying, oh, we have a very, very high pick in the draft if this doesn't go well with Houston. So, and other interested parties, as we are the most interested parties.
Where is Lucifer means Lightbringer, man? Where's our guy? Because we're talking all Game of Thrones in the chat room. Jeremy says, was Bill O'Brien King Robert Baratheon? No, I think he was Stannis. Yeah. He's like a leader that nobody likes, is uninspiring, and makes stuff up. Just start the sword on fire. Well, it's truly that. Anyway, it's Lightbringer, right? All right, let's move on in Sunday's action. And next up, Miami and San Francisco. And this afternoon game's going on now on the Miami side of things. We're just waiting. When is Tua Tagovailoa going to be inserted in the lineup? Is Devontae Parker going to keep going with Ryan Fitzpatrick? How much can you get out of Myles Gaskin? I'm getting a lot of Gaskin like start questions, Bloom, but also a lot of like, I'm going to trade away Myles Gaskin, or even sometimes dump Myles Gaskin for, let's say, a Robert Tonyan or whatever, which I'm like, yes, everybody. Even if you have George Kittle, you're getting Robert Tonyan, everybody out there. So some interest here. I'm more interested in the 49ers, like with Mostert coming back, Bloom. But let's get this Dolphins side out the way, and, well, maybe Ryan Fitzpatrick out the way.
Yeah, that's the big story here. But let's get nostalgic, Cease. Every time we have a Super Bowl rematch, I like to just note that. Because, these teams only play each other every 4 years, unless they play in the Super Bowl. Miami, San Francisco, that was the year the Steelers made the AFC title game, right? The best success of the post-Destiny dynasty era. And then Dan Marino ran into the buzzsaw that was those 49ers teams. It wasn't even that. The San Francisco 49ers have been involved in some very entertaining Super Bowls, like when they play Cincinnati, and some not entertaining Super Bowls.
Like when they play Denver or the Chargers.
Or when a team that the Steelers lost to in the AFC title game, San Diego, that one year. Alfred Pupunu! Anyway. Is this Fitzmagic's last stand? I think we're going to see Tua in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Brian Flores in the coach comments making that clear. Gaskin, I guess we've come full circle on Gaskin. We didn't think much of him coming into the year. He was the best out of these 3 running backs. He gained more work. There was that Thursday night game that was prominent where he was the lead back, and he wasn't poor, but he wasn't adding anything to his touches either. And because Miami controlled that game, we got kind of excited about Gaskin, at least as someone that could help from the waiver wire. And now we're back to, maybe Matt Breida and his extra burst gets in there more. Gaskin is still like a flex. Not even really about the heck flex because I don't know about the upside there. Devontae Parker, at least as long as Ryan Fitzpatrick is the guy here, and Fitzpatrick said as much after the game. That's another thing in the background with Tua is how could this change with the target distribution. Preston Williams is on our bench and maybe coming soon to shut him down. Although, again, we want to hold out hope for Tua. Gesicki's an interesting one because, yes, he didn't do much against Seattle, but a lot of signs point to him getting extra attention from Seattle. So sometimes, when a player comes up small that's on the rise, we see it as a sign of a setback in their development or they're just not getting it done. But sometimes it can be a sign of the respect they're getting from an opposing defense. So let's watch that. I'm okay, if you don't have an obvious option at tight end, I'm okay with going back to Gesicki because he also has shown us at least like the 8 for 30 and a touchdown upside, which not that many tight ends even have. And San Francisco's defense is smarting. San Francisco, they just lost to Carson Wentz. You lost to Carson Wentz in this Eagles offense? What? So San Francisco's defense, they've lost a lot of players. They don't have their top 3 corners. K'Wan Williams goes down to another one every week, Cease. With these cornerbacks for San Francisco. That's another thing to think about as we break down the Miami offense here. But this is a key game for San Francisco. Losing a game, when you're losing to an NFC least team, you're asking yourself some questions, and there's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. Just like the injuries on the 49ers defense. Not going to make any excuses for any team that has a rash of injuries, but name another team that's lost what they've lost.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Eagles.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Okay, 49ers side, Raheem Mostert back, getting some Jet McQuinnon questions. I'm like, still start him, at least as a what-the-heck flex. He proved earlier in the year when everybody was healthy, like he can score touchdowns and be used on gadget plays. Like, yeah, Jet McKinnon's still a flex player. What the heck flex play with Mostert back? Who should work as an RB2? Debo Samuel's back, girl. How you like Debo last week? How do you like him this week, Bloom? And teamed up with Brandon Ayuk. And, well, who the hell's going to start at quarterback? We're recording on Thursday morning. I think we're watching the practice reports, the injury reports for the 49ers here as we go. Okay, what's that quarterback situation? Jimmy Garoppolo limited on Wednesday. So, that's the question mark, but we'll see what they look like now, licking their wounds at home against Miami.
Yeah, it's a big one. And I think we're going to see Garoppolo. So there's a lot of these conditionals, right? I think we're going to see Garoppolo. Otherwise, it's Beathard. Obviously, if it's Beathard, you're playing Kittle and that's it. If it's Garoppolo, a little more optimism here. Miami's defense hasn't been a defense that we're scared of. Mostert back. If Mostert's back, he's in the lineup. Fastest guy in the NFL. I mean, no matter how you cut it. Having him back. And the other thing we'll watch with Mostert is, can he get back to that top speed? Because with these knee injuries that don't have surgeries, some of it's mental, some of it's just trusting your body. I think he will. But as you said, McKinnon has done enough with Mostert out to show that when he comes back, Mostert that is, McKinnon should have a large enough role and enough potential on each touch to be a what the heck flex. Deebo Samuel back up to speed. How's that going to affect Brandon Ayuk, or how's Brandon Ayuk going to affect Samuel's role in terms of fantasy relevance week to week? The reason we ask this is because of George Kittle. And see, can we just take a moment out right now and say, let's appreciate that we get to watch George Kittle play at his peak. And the dude's playing through injuries, basically through his whole career, he's going to be playing through injuries, right? He's got that torn labrum from 2 years ago, whatever. Like, I would love it if we could flash for a moment like what he feels in that shoulder regularly to understand the kind of dude that George Kittle is. I mean, he's epic proportions, George Kittle, and that's exciting. It's exciting to get to watch him. It's really exciting when he's in your lineup. Yes, he's worth more than Travis Kelce. So San Francisco, important game is that last couple spots in the NFC is going to be nip and tuck.
Well, by the way, our man KGB, our chat room favorites, he said, Isaiah Ford, to me, with the inconsistent targets, I would just say, what the heck, flex, right?
Yeah, well, and what we're really watching is Preston Williams just getting off to a slow start, and then that's going to block Isaiah Ford's role from growing, or is Preston Williams almost it's like a redshirt year, and next year we'll see Preston Williams get all the way back from his knee injury, and then Isaiah Ford becomes interesting, and of course, becomes interesting when Tua takes over. We want to see who he has chemistry with.
Right. Who is that guy? By the way, speaking of our guy, pot stoner degenerate up there, the Mr. T starter kit.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Okay. By the way, drove through Greeley yesterday, Jason, and I was this close to hitting you up on Twitter. I had to get back to the studio. I barely made it, if that, but I was like, I got to grab a cup of Starbucks with our man Jason, right? I got to spend time with the people. Masked up. Socially distant, but hey, I was thinking about you when I was driving through Greeley, buddy. Anyway, let's move on to the next game up in the Week 5 preview, and that's Indianapolis and Cleveland. And fantasy GMs are looking at that Colts backfield, trying to find the value on a weekly basis. What can they do here? You're looking at the wide receivers and Phillip Rivers and going, okay, Indianapolis has some solid players, perhaps even some solid fantasy starters for you, Bloom, but nothing to terribly get excited about.
Right.
At least I don't get excited when I think about inserting Colts players into my lineup. How about you?
No. And in some ways, this is kind of like Spider-Man pointing at each other, these two teams. We just don't want our quarterback to throw more than 25 times. We just want to run the ball and play good defense and not let our quarterback throw unless we know exactly what he's going to do. Just don't lose the game for us, Baker and Phillip. Love this matchup. See, this is that odd dumpling of terrible fantasy matchup because of the way these teams are, but a really fun game to watch. So with Indianapolis, you're right. There's just no plays in the passing game. And Jonathan Taylor is even having his upside cropped by Nyheim Hines and Jordan Wilkins. So, I mean, Taylor you're going to play, but he's running back 2, not running back 1. Hines is interesting just because you would think that with Myles Garrett and Sheldon Richardson, the longer you let Phillip Rivers hold the ball, the more likely something bad's going to happen. So maybe some short passing to Nyheim Hines. This is going to be a weekly opportunity for me to say, give Mo Ali Cox more work. Give him more work. He's so good. Dropping him, I guess, is probably rational with Trey Burton back. I'm holding him in my dynasty leagues, at least. We may come back to Mo Ali Cox. I hope that we do. And this is, he's 3-1, 3-1. Cleveland is 3-1. A lot of years we would be like, wow. And if they can win this one, which it's a winnable game, they're going to be 4-1 going into Pittsburgh.
Going into the Steelers matchup. That'll be something fun to watch. That is for sure. And Myles Garrett, you mentioned him, Bloom. We always talk about players that play with natural violence. Like Myles Garrett has bad intentions. And that's very good for football. That is very, very good for football. So, Philip, dump it off there. And the Trey Burton love, like, come on, man. Outside of the Philly, and he was like one of those dynasty prospects I was always holding on to just because of his athletic profile. But then the injuries and the failures of Chicago, it's like, okay, Frank Reich, what are you doing? What are you doing? Mo Ali Cox, Mo of Mo. Do we know Mo? Okay. Hit that like button like Carson Wentz. Hit Travis Fulgham. So says our man K1. Let's talk about the flip side of this contest, and that is the Browns now Suns Nick Chubb. That means Kareem Hunt's our RB1. Dearness Johnson is a flex play. And then we're left wondering, okay, David Njoku might be back, but those tight ends splitting time, and it might be a Harrison Bryant touchdown, might be an Austin Hooper touchdown. So the confusion continues. And then Odell Beckham Jr. building momentum bloom or flash from this last week's performance.
It's going to be difficult to surpass what he did against the Cowboys, right? Like, how many players are going to have their best fantasy game of the year against the Cowboys? It's going to be a long list. That being said, what Beckham settled last week was he's never going to be on your bench because you know what he can do. Because he's still that guy. He showed us last week, gave us a little wink. Yeah, I'm still in there. I can still dazzle you. Tough matchup. This is that irresistible force, immovable object thing. Indy's run defense has been tough. The run defense has been better than the running game. And Cleveland's running game has been great. I suppose this is a moment. I want to start a foundation or movement that's like, get the position coaches the love they deserve. We don't mention position. That's why I did Pep Hamilton.
Right.
This segment today, that goes to Bill Callahan. And if you say great offensive line coaches, you should think like Dante Scarnecchia. You should think Mike Munchak. Bill Callahan might be a little bit before the time of some of the younger football fans, but he's incredible. He's incredible. His son is his offensive coordinator for the Bengals. This offensive line, as Benjamin Solak pointed out too, that it's not just zone. Kevin Stefanski didn't just implement zone. They're pulling guards, they're mashing people. But this is a tough Indy defense. So if you like that kind of football, a strong running game, a strong offensive line against a strong defense, although the linebackers are banged up for Indy. So maybe this is where Cleveland takes advantage with Kareem Hunt. And you got Kareem Hunt, you're playing Kareem Hunt, just what do you have in Kareem Hunt? Tremendous pick, a home run fantasy football pick at this point. And before the Nick Chubb injury, he was already like a solid double or triple. But that was part of the Kareem Hunt profile if Nick Chubb gets hurt. And jackpot, he's a first-round pick if we have fantasy drafts. Today, we're going to watch Dearness Johnson, who looked tremendous. And again, maybe it's just speaking of zone running game, like the Shanahan running game. Maybe it's just the running game, as long as someone's running it competently.
Right.
Maybe Dearness Johnson's that guy. Even Dontrell Hilliard looked good last week. Or maybe it was just Dallas defense. I mean, the Browns have had some good running game days, but maybe against better defenses, those secondary backs, it's Chubb and Hunt. My man Eric Stoner was asking me, he's the best duo in the backfield that Chubb Hunt, like who was the last great duo? He said Turner and LT. That's a good one. Okay. And I look back, and Darren Sproles was in the backfield with them one year.
Oh, yeah.
So that's got to be the best trio. That's got to be the best trio.
You would think, yeah, easily.
But Chubb and Hunt now is just Hunt. And then, Landry threw that touchdown last week. That's the only way he had fantasy value. Hooper had fantasy value. It was the Cowboys. And like you said, Njoku's going to be back. Again, not a very exciting fantasy game. You're going to start Taylor. You're going to start Hunt. You're going to start Beckham. And then you're going to enjoy a really physical, really good football game between two winning teams.
Two winning teams and one mess come out. Let's talk about two losing teams, and hopefully there's not a tie. The Giants and the Cowboys are up next. And it's one of those things like, okay, Giants side, really? I'm getting a few Devonta Freeman questions. Now, you look at the matchup, Bloom, and I can understand if you're talking, what the heck flex for Devonta Freeman? Still all hair and ass, but other than that, like when I'm gotten Devonta Freeman questions, and even sometimes paired up with Dearness Johnson, well, it's Johnson clearly. I'm rarely breaking ties or telling people to put Devonta Freeman in their lineup. Is there any Giants that get you excited this week because of this matchup? And, what's better than beating up on the Cowboys if you're the Giants?
That's what this is a test of. And there is no definitive answer to these questions, but every week we answer the questions to try to guide us in fantasy lineup setting. Which is worse, when you have a bad offense that has faced a tough schedule against a bad defense where every offense has basically done whatever they wanted against them. What wins out? Or is it just bad football? So, no, you're not getting too excited. This is where we get into DFS lineup construction cease and what the heck flex. I mean, this is what the what the heck flex segment is for.
Right.
Golden Tate, Darius Slayton, Devonta Freeman, I guess. Maybe Wayne Gallman takes over this backfield as the game goes on because he outplays Freeman. But Freeman still could get the touches in the passing game. So the nice thing about playing Freeman as what the heck flex or emergency running back 2 is that if they are in catch-up mode against Dallas, then the Giants are going to have to throw a lot, dump off to Devonta Freeman. And you're going to play Evan Ingram. At least the volume has been there to give you some sense of security. But we're really looking at this game as an indicator because remember, all the NFC East teams play each other 6 times. And the Giants haven't played, they played all teams outside of the division. That's why their schedule was so tough, right? Now they get in the next 6 weeks, they play 5 NFC East teams. And then they get Cincinnati and Seattle and Arizona after that. So this could be the start of something good. Is that like a monkey song or something? I don't know. Anyway, something tells me I'm into something good.
Tell me something good.
That's Rufus and with Chaka Khan, and that's the one I really should be talking about with the great talk box work. But see, this is a big fork in the road, right? Because if the Giants' offense and Jason Garrett, by the way, there's some Game of Thrones stuff. That's kind of more like a telenovela or something there, like a soap opera than an actual. Because it's just it's all emotions and everyone's sad and disappointed. Jason Garrett against Dallas. There's also that layer here. Big game though to forecast the Giants' offense against lesser defenses. The Giants' defense was a lesser defense until they faced the Rams. Last week they made the Rams, who only scored 20 points against the Cowboys, look somewhat mortal. Nobody is making Dak Prescott look mortal.
No, not at all. Dak Prescott getting it done and will continue to do so. And that makes Zeke, like, you're still starting Zeke. Of course, you don't listen to the shows. I start Zeke, but you're kind of expecting less, right? And not to get greedy. It's like when Russell Wilson has a down week with only 360 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? So with Zeke, it's like, okay, it's not, 150 yards, whatever. It's like 75 yards, maybe a touchdown mixed in, but it's Dak Prescott doing everything. Now he's doing that in an interesting way, Bloom, because lots of Dalton Schultz, of course, lots of Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, not as much as Michael Gallup. But Michael Gallup is a what the heck flex play at least every single week that could win your week for you as Dak continues to thrive through the air because the Cowboys can't play defense.
Yeah, I'll start with that Gallup talk. I mean, it's the Giants. I think there's a lot to exploit here. Fear of missing out, Cease. What the kids call it, FOMO. Acronyms. When you set your lineups or you make a trade or you don't make a trade, there's always fear of missing out. Gallup has fear of missing out. I mean, I'll take a 2 for 30 if I know I can get a 9 for 150 and a touchdown. And absolutely it's there for him. So think big, folks. This offense helped you think big. CeeDee Lamb with his big game, the first big game of his career, he gives you that fear of missing out now. And, of course, there's Amari Cooper, maybe the number 1 fantasy football wide receiver now that Calvin Ridley is banged up. Probably. We'll see if Cooper can stay healthy. By the way, Zeke's going all Christian McCaffrey on us. What does he have so far? Like 20 plus catches. I mean, he's if he's not on a 100 catch pace, it's got to be close, and that's helping. So in the running game, and of course Lyle Collins is out, Joe Looney's out for a little while. This is offensive line that Tyron Smith on and off the field. Not an offensive line that is dominating in the trenches. So Ezekiel Elliott's not dominating as a runner, but the touchdown opportunities and the receptions are helping him. And then the other thing here is Dalton Schultz. Wow. Dalton Schultz is going to be top 5, top 6 fantasy tight end going forward. I don't see any reason this is going to slow down. Every week I say this, I'm going to say, Blake Jarwin. because he was adding value to targets that Dalton Schultz can't add. But doesn't matter. This is the Austin Hooper School of Fantasy Football value at tight end. It can be just the situation, and what a situation it is. And if the Cowboys lose this game, we will all laugh at them.
They're all going to laugh at you.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Speaking of laughter or tears, Broncos and Patriots up next. This one in Foxborough. Afternoon slate is not really good.
The Indy Cleveland game, if you like the trench play, that's where it's at.
Indy Cleveland for the trench play, and then Broncos Patriots for the Philip Lindsay play. I remember seeing him at the Shrine game. There you go, Jason. Yeah. There's your bong grip, water pipe, whatever. Sorry, Joe. And okay, Philip Lindsay probably back. We don't have official confirmation, but I've been out at practice twice this week. I'll be back out there tomorrow. Philip Lindsay looks good, and I know he's from Colorado and went to Colorado Bloom, but Texas might be his favorite. Now, there's a little lassie bark for you, and I think that really cuts into Melvin Gordon. In fact, if Lindsay outperforms Melvin Gordon this week, because the Patriots struggling against running backs who can hit the edge like Philip Lindsay can, catch passes like Philip Lindsay can, run routes like he's in Texas like Philip Lindsay can, more lassie barks abound. I think that Philip Lindsay could pay off as a flex play this week. And Melvin Gordon's kind of coming off a 100-yard game. He's still kind of an uninteresting RB2, low-end RB2 for me. So, again, watch that Lindsey Gordon thing. Watch Brett Rippon again. Tim Patrick's his favorite guy. Does Belichick take away Tim Patrick, or does Belichick take away Jerry Jeudy? And then at the tight end position, we'll be watching him without Noah Fant. I still think they might try to make Jake Butt a thing. Whether or not you want that to happen, just, again, practice observations, can't reveal too much. And it doesn't seem like they're overly excited to get Albert Okwuegbunam in. Maybe that's just Vic Fangio not showing any emotion ever about anything, unless it's spaghetti. Like when you get him talking about Italian food, then Vic Fangio lights up like a Christmas tree. If you're just talking football, he's like, whatever. So I don't know if it's Okwuegbunam yet, Bloom. It might be they're forcing Jake Butt down your throat.
Yeah, maybe. We need to compile a list for all 32 coaches of what's a topic that makes them light up.
That's tacos for Adam Gase.
Really? Yeah, there you go. Right. It was with Belichick. It's Navy football, right?
Oh, of course.
Denver. I'm sorry for you, because behind the scenes, folks could probably tell. Like, we talk a lot. Cecil and I do. See each other almost every day, and I always either congratulate. I've got to watch Cecil cover a Super Bowl winner. I also got to see you cover some bad teams, and this sure feels like a lost season.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no way around it. It looks like a lost season for the Broncos. But like you said, there's Philip Lindsay, and whatever story is going on around Philip Lindsay, his story is about proving everyone wrong. Including Cecil Lammey.
Of course.
And so that's good in a way. Like you said, what tech flex? We're going to see how it affects Melvin Gordon. Tim Patrick, Jerry Jeudy. So Tim Patrick, is he for real? Jerry Jeudy, is he going to have a signature game? He had a touchdown last week because it went off of Pierre Desir's face. So it wasn't. He did also have another one that he was missed on deep by Rippon. And in the background here, too, there's the Drew Lock question. And hopefully they err on the side of letting him come back.
He's not going to play this week.
Yeah. So it's going to be Brett Rippon. We saw Rippon hook up with Tim Patrick. Look, it's the New England corners. It's the New England pass defense that contained Patrick Mahomes and company last week. This is not a week to get cute with your Denver Broncos receivers. And again, with Patrick, it was the Jets, and it wasn't Pierre Desir often that he was beating. So, yeah, you're right. Lindsay is the headliner here. And for Broncos fans, it can't really keep up even an illusion that this is anything but a lost season, and we'll see where we go from here.
And we'll see where we go with the New England Patriots. We don't have any clarity on Cam, right? I'm looking right now.
Probably not going to play. Let's just say he's not going to play.
Okay, so here we go. Brian Hoyer, Jarrett Stidham, whatever.
Yeah,
it's the Broncos defense. Where can you pick? What's interesting to note in talking to Patriots insiders, Bloom, is that Hoyer knows the old offense, which featured a lot of running backs out of the backfield, which features a lot of tight ends, but Devin Asiasi's not doing anything. Dalton Keene had a little neck thing, and the Patriots are never going to tell you much about any sort of injury. So, whatever happens with the audible favorite, Dalton Keene. But, okay, so we've seen the Patriots without Cam. It's not terribly exciting. At home against Denver, James White excites me. Damian Harris could excite me. How about you with these Patriots? And Julian Edelman, of course, always does his PPR thing. He's kind of rinse, repeat. You know what to expect from Julian Edelman. What to expect from these Patriots, though, likely without Cam.
Yeah, and we'll see about the rinse, repeat with Edelman. Edelman looked like he aged a little bit during that game. He just didn't look like Julian Edelman. Just wasn't very sharp. We get to see Stidham against a poor defense, and we get to see this game. No further Patriots positives at this point. Stidham, I guess you have that speaking of fear of missing out on something, we missed out on how that game would have went if Stidham would have started it. Not that Stidham is necessarily better than Brian Hoyer, but his flaws are more spectacular for the defense, and his strengths, like you said, activate more of the offense. When he came in, we did see him hook up with Damiere Byrd downfield. Damiere Byrd is interesting with that flex here because what's going on with the Denver corners, it ain't good. Jeff Smith had a big game against them last week. So you're looking at Damiere Byrd. N'Keal Harry caught a touchdown from Stidham. So Harry qualifies with that flex. But again, it comes back to Edelman and whether he looks a little better in this game than he did against Kansas City, whose pass defense has been excellent, by the way. We'll see a lot of Damian Harris. Broncos' run defense is always pretty tough. They don't back down from that challenge. So Damian Harris is a modest play here. You're hoping for a touchdown here. James White is going to get his receptions. He has that high PPR floor, but not a high ceiling. This could be a game, Cecil, with a lot. So we saw two bad offenses, the Broncos and the Jets. It was 37-28. This is two bad offenses that's, I think, could be more like 13-10 and not a fantasy bonanza.
And they'll both be happy about that.
Yeah, and by the way, Denver, New England makes me think Ben Watson, one of the best individual plays. Mm-hmm. Even though in Denver, New England has also been a terrific matchup during the Brady years in the playoffs too. We've seen all kinds of sides of that coin. Not much to this coin.
They used to have a winning record against Brady until they faced him in Tampa, and now he's 500 against the Broncos. By the way, that Big Ben Watson play, you mentioned the Champ Bailey interception caused by Nick Ferguson.
Yeah.
And then Nick didn't tell him. He's running down the field next to Champ, and Ben runs right by him and makes the tackle. So we had a name for that, Bloom. We'd call Wolf. Wolf. In basketball or football, when another player, an opponent was running behind you, you just start yelling, Wolf. That means watch that ball. Watch that rock, girl. All right, let's get to the Sunday night football matchup. This one much more interesting. Minnesota and Seattle, the game we're going to talk about now. And Minnesota's side, Dalvin Cook's side, keep feeding him the rock, but it's against Seattle, Bloom. What have they given up? Like 2,000 yards?
$1 billion.
Seriously.
Billions,
trillions. Yes, $1 million lacer. So if you're Kirk Cousins, if you can't get it done with Adam Thielen, Justin Jefferson through the air, is there hope for Irv Smith? Like, seriously, go to all the assets. BC Johnson is a what the heck flex. Like, Seattle can't stop the pass. Minnesota doesn't necessarily want to pass. They will mostly play action. But will they take advantage of the biggest weakness of their opponent? And it's a pretty big weakness.
Yeah. I think Minnesota, Seattle, by the way, I think like Steve Hutchinson and poison pills. There's a lot of bad blood between these franchises for a little while. Can Cousins keep up? And that sounds bad, right, Cease? I mean, you're asking Cousins and this offense to keep up pace with Seattle. You're asking for turnovers. You're asking for things to start to fall apart. Or could Justin Jefferson make this interesting? And the Minnesota offense is so boring for fantasy football. You're going to play Dalvin Cook. He's a god. Dalvin Cook is so good. So good. Seattle's run defense has been a little better this year. You're going to play Adam Thielen now after the reassurance you got in week 4, especially in a game you expect to be like this. And Jamal Adams out for this one again, by the way. So that's another reason that you would like the Minnesota offense to at least have a somewhat successful day, even if it all goes very wrong when Kirk Cousins is desperately trying to stay in this one. And nothing from the tight ends. And that's just how this offense is going to be. Mike Zimmer, again, every time I think about Minnesota, I think about they gave Zimmer that extension before the season.
Yeah.
I know that you're in the middle of a drama of like what direction is the franchise going to go, but they have questions of who survives. Does everyone survive? Does no one survive? What's going on with this franchise? Because I think we'll see that what a difference the philosophy makes. Because if Seattle had stayed with the blueprint they had coming into the year, we would probably have that billions and billions of yards given up Seattle defense, a much bigger part of the story of Seattle's franchise right now. But it's let Russ cook, and whoever, bring on all comers, they can beat anybody with Russ playing this way and those guys playing around him. So I'm, for one, looking forward just a chance to see it front and center in week 5 on Sunday night.
Yeah, we'll have to hurry up with the recap. So we can get to this game, or just DVR at Bloom and don't pay attention to the box score when we're watching. That's our Sunday workload, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about Seattle's workload and Russ Cook with that fleet of food trucks. So how does that fleet look this week? And are they even going to try to run the ball? Would you recommend that, or would you just say just let them up through the air?
Did you learn cooking like from your mom or anything growing up, Cecil?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the best cooking secret your mom taught you?
Butter.
Actually, is she from New Orleans?
If you make your tortillas the right way with butter on both sides and don't get them too crispy. Where was I at? I was somewhere, and I told Stacy, I said, this reminds me of my mom's tortillas. I can't remember where I was at, and it was just like buttered perfectly. It was a little bit brown, a little bit crisp, but not too crisp. It was wonderful. And when food can take you down to the because our man Jason Pot Stoner Degenerate was asking, what do we talk about behind the scenes? We need to do a show of what we talk about behind the scenes.
Everything.
But like when that food or that smell hits you, and it's just like in your DNA, and it takes you to that spot, dude. Yeah. Those are some of the best type of like, oh, that flavor took me to that spot.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It smells and tastes are really deep in our brains. And in New Orleans, it's food that makes you go, oh, while you eat it. I mean, lots of butter. It's the Trinity. New Orleans, it's the Trinity, folks. It's celery, bell pepper, and an onion. Believe in the Trinity. Believe in Russell Wilson. Whew. This is fun. And we said it every year, Cece. You could probably put together a montage like 30 times. We said, what would this team look like? What would Russell Wilson look like if they just let him pass? And what does that mean? Chris Carson, just let him get to the bye healthy, so he can rest a little bit. But he's getting chances to end drives. It was the passing game he was producing in early in the season. Now he's getting those touchdowns. You've got Tyler Lockett, of course. Okay, he had a down week last week. Whatever. He can win your week for you. Tight ends getting split up among 3 players, so we're not looking there. DJ Dallas is coming on, by the way, just with Carlos Hyde in the shoulder. Is he even going to be active? It doesn't sound smart to me to have him active, let him rest the shoulder through the bye. Maybe we'll see more DJ Dallas. He's a name that you need to remember. But I want to take a moment to call out DK Metcalf. See, what's DK Metcalf's yard per catch right now? Like 25 or something?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And what that stands for, because we have, and I'm not going to go on a Cecil rant here, but we have numbers and the idea of regression, that if we see something, it's going to adhere to the norms of the past. But folks, sometimes new things happen that don't fit in the range of what has happened before. That's DK Metcalf with Russell Wilson. The expectations, can he maintain a 25 yards per catch? Yes! Maybe it won't go up, because of the philosophy of this team, because of DK Metcalf and the special talent he is. Enjoy it. Enjoy it if you got Metcalf in the 4th or 5th round. He's a 2nd round pick, maybe even a late 1st round pick, as it's just so exciting to watch this offense right now.
Excitement doesn't necessarily abound. Certainly wins don't abound for the Chargers and Saints up next, but let's get to this thing. And well, fantasy GM's wondering about the Saints side. We'll get to that, Bloom, but let's talk about perhaps the number 1 receiver this week, Keenan Allen. Let's talk about his quarterback, Justin Herbert. Going to be tough to get a win in the Superdome. COVID, no COVID, fans, no fans, whatever. It's always a tough place to play down there in New Orleans. Is everything going to be okay with the hurricane?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and it's a moment's cease to say for the folks in Southwest Louisiana, Lake Charles, most specifically, that have already hit by Laura this summer, it looks like. That's the thing about living in hurricane strike zone, is that anytime you think to yourself, oh, I really hope it changes course and we don't have a hurricane bearing down on us, your immediate next thought is that means I'm wishing for it to steer over somebody else's head. Right. And in this case, somebody who already saw a hurricane this summer that was a devastating hurricane. So, Lake Charles. Anyway,
okay. Yeah. Well, everything's going to be okay.
Okay enough for New Orleans. They decided to not travel to Indy. They were going to send the team to Indy and potentially play the game in Indy. They're not going to do that. So, and I think that it's far enough on the track now that we can feel okay about this game happening here on Monday night.
And Chargers side, which means we're feeling okay about Justin Herbert. We're going to be watching Joshua Kelly. What can be there with Justin Jackson? That split now will become very, very interesting. And then, like I said, Keenan Allen, number one receiver. And then maybe some interesting what the heck flex plays from that Chargers wide receiver group behind one Keenan Allen.
Yeah, excitement to watch Justin Herbert. Hopefully he doesn't wilt under the pressure, because there is that little bit of extra pressure that players know that everybody's watching on Monday night. So all eyes on Justin Herbert in this one. I don't think we're going to see Mike Williams with the hamstring. If we do, first week back from the hamstring is always dicey. We'll have to watch about those Saints corners also. I'm excited to see what Mike Williams can do with Justin Herbert now that we saw him hooking up on those deep passes. Keenan Allen's getting the volume we want. That's good. Hunter Henry, even the down week, Herbert revitalizing the passing game. We're happy there. And then there's the backfield. And my reaction this week is, I don't really want to play either of them. And I think we're going to see closer to a 50-50 split between Kelly and Jackson. In terms of quality of play, we should see something closer to a 50-50 split. Kelly getting the goal line carries. I just don't know. Kelly has a little more upside. I think that Jackson might be a little better runner. Can Jackson stay healthy? All these questions. Plus, is Brian Bulaga going to play? Is Try Turner going to play? They already lost Mike Pouncey. So lots of stuff we're going to be watching on the injury report here as we go into this game. And Saints, these are the games you got to win. Tampa last week, Saints and Tampa like a horse race. You saw the Tampa beat the Chargers last week. Saints have to answer.
They have to answer. Will it be with Mike Thomas? I could just throw it out there.
Another injury report question.
Another injury report question. You have to wait till Saturday. So recording this on Thursday morning. Saturday is what we're waiting for Michael Thomas. It seems like that's what they were targeting with can't guard Mike. So, okay, if Michael Thomas is out there, Traquan Smith, fantasy GM's like, oh. Emmanuel Sanders, fantasy GM's like, and Drew Brees and the noodle arm. Okay, what kind of cooking do they do on Monday night? Of course, you're starting Alvin Kamara. You don't listen to the show for that. But let's talk about the Saints side.
Yeah, this is one where you would expect the Chargers, will they get Chris Harris back for a while? No. Melvin Ingram? No. And you saw how easy it was for the Bucs to move the ball against them last week. So I think you're going to see the Saints, much like they had a field day against the Lions, a similar kind of game here. So you like Drew Brees as a secondary option if you don't have an automatic start. You love this backfield. And again, last week showed that, you're going to play Kamara every week. He's the most valuable running back in fantasy football right now. But Murray carries that 20-plus point upside too, because this is such a terrific backfield in terms of production. We'll see if Michael Thomas is back. If Michael Thomas isn't back, Traquan Smith's been good 2 weeks out of 3. This could be 3 out of 4. Emmanuel Sanders is also coming on. Sanders coming on to the point where you're considering him even if Michael Thomas is back, because his momentum in scoring is helping fantasy teams. We'll see if Jared Cook is back. Not much there with Adam Troutman. But we saw the Saints on Monday night once already this year and went really badly against the Raiders. So we'll see if they can redeem that. And it's certainly, it's nice. So we're going to get to watch Russell Wilson. We're going to get to watch Justin Herbert. Everyone gets to see that. And hopefully, we're going to be watching these games. Again, keep in mind, what the heck flex more important than ever, Cease? It's Buffalo, Tennessee going to get played. Your what the heck flex might be the difference between you winning and losing this week because you have fewer players. I'm afraid this might be something that goes on this year. So this is very important, maybe the most important segment of the preview show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the ever popular What the Heck Flex. And you look over your lineup, you just need some punch. You're like, oh, throw it up to the gods. Let the gods decide, right, Bloom? Throw it out there and say, oh, hell, I don't know. Throw in a what the heck flex this week. I talked about Devonta Freeman. That's where I would put him. I know it's against the Cowboys, whatever, but what the heck flex level for him? What the heck flex level continues for J.K. Dobbins? My thought process is that Baltimore will get up big and just hand it off to the kid. You got Lamar Jackson, a little bit of a knee thing. All right, just let J.K. Dobbins do his thing. What the heck flex for Keyshawn Vaughn, for Dearness Johnson, although he could pay off like a regular flex play. When we get to the wide receiver position, what the heck flexes abound? Brandon Ayuk probably pay off more than a what the heck flex. McCall Hardman a little bit banged up, so watch that. What the heck flex there for Damiere Byrd. Bloom, you went over that as well. Preston Williams at this point, he's kind of what the heck flex. Same with Emmanuel Sanders. Darnell Mooney, what the heck flex. So let's talk about this in week 5 when you need that punch and you're going to guys that you just need a hope and a prayer. Who are some of your week 5 what the heck flexes?
Hope and a prayer, Cease. Hope and a prayer the Giants offense comes around again. Slayton, Tate, Freeman, maybe Wayne Gallman if you're really desperate. Hope that Ding Dong the Witch is dead and everyone dances and sings for the Houston offense. David Johnson, Duke Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Randall Cobb. Also at running back, Keyshawn Vaughn. Excited to see what he can do. Not going to see Fournette out there against Chicago. It is a tough Chicago defense. Baltimore running backs, perpetual what the heck flexes this year. Maybe a little change. Upside's always there. Nyheim Hines in a PPR, slow down that pass rush. Jerick McKinnon. Other wide receivers. Zach Pascal. Yeah. If Denzel Ward's on T.Y. Hilton, maybe it's Pascal breaking a big play. I wonder whether we should continue to mention McCole Hardman. You see the upside even on half the snaps, like you said, banged up. I wonder whether we should mention Laviska Shenault. I just think the fact that putting Visca in your lineup makes you more excited to watch the Jags, more excited to watch him. He's just an exciting player. Damiere Byrd, we mentioned. Olamide Zaccheaus. We're going to see about Julio Jones. I don't think he's going to play. Darnell Mooney against that Tampa secondary that can give up big plays. Curtis Samuel against Atlanta. They can give up big plays. Scotty Miller, the most healthy Tampa wide receiver outside of like Cyril Grayson or Tyler Johnson. So we'll get to watch. Let's see if Tyler Johnson out there in that slot receiver role. And a name, I think it makes us smile every time we get to mention Khalif Raymond. Right, Cease?
Yeah, we do. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, if they play, Corey David's on the COVID list. Adam Humphrey's on the COVID list. A.J. Brown coming back from an injury, knocking off some rust. Could be Khalif Raymond night, and we may see it Monday, Tuesday. I'd love, he had one of the big plays against Baltimore. We love seeing the players that overcome the odds, and they stick around, and they make things happen. And he's been doing that this year.
Make sure to tune in tonight for the live show. Dr. Gene Bramall, Matt Waldman, Sigmund Bloom, and yours truly, starting at 10 p.m. Eastern time. So that's coming up, our Audible live show tonight. We've got IDP Roundtable, which I'm editing as we speak, Bloom. That's coming out. And, of course, the DFS Power Grid with Austin Lee and the fellas. So we got you hooked up here on Football Guys TV. Do all those YouTube things. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Click that notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Thanks, everyone out there, for watching. Thanks, everyone, for helping uplift all spirits. So we hope we do that for you. We're getting messages about that. So thank you, guys, because it means a lot, because we're here for you. You guys are here for us. He's Sigmund Bloom. I'm Cecil Lammey. We are the Audible. Stay tuned and stay frosty.